Hey everyone, I hope that you're doing well and that your week is going well. I just wanted to check in with you about the final project since the bibliography is due this Sunday, August 4th. Please remember that the bibliography is just a list of your sources. In other words, it doesn't need to be annotated. You only have to, again, list your sources with all of the relevant publication information. So, for example, the place of publication, the publisher's name, the date of publication, if it's a journal article, which journal it was found in, along with the date and the range of page numbers. If it's a website, please include as much information as you can, including the author's name, the title of the post or the website, as well as a link to the URL and when you last accessed that. If you need any help with the formatting for your bibliography, please see the links that are included in the instructions for the final project. Also, please remember that there are some requirements for the types of sources that you'll need. So for example, you need to have at least one primary source, 2 academic secondary sources, 2 to 3 other secondary sources, and a couple of social media sources. Remember that primary sources are those that were created at the time of the event that you're studying. So a lot of things have been digitized, including newspaper articles. There are also some early records from New Mexico history that have been translated and transcribed and put online. So depending on what your topic is, you'll need to find something that fits into that primary source category. If you have any struggles with that, please let me know as soon as you can. I won't be able to help last minute on Sunday night, but I will do my best to help out if you give me a little bit of lead in terms of being able to respond to you and give you some feedback. Same thing goes for academic sources. Those include peer-reviewed journal articles you'll find through the SunCat OneSearch at the CNM Libraries page. You could also look for books published by university presses. Those can be found online at Google Books, and often you can read a preview of books via Google Books. For the purposes of our assignment, you'll be focused in on your research questions, so you won't need to read entire books, and you may be able to access enough of the text via Google Books to get what you need from it. So those are a couple of ways that you can get at those kinds of academic sources. Ideally, you could go to the library. You can look for books on the shelves. If you go to UNM and you're on campus, you will have access to all of their databases, which tend to be a little more extensive than the ones that we have access to at UNM, or excuse me, at CNM. So, again, those are all options that you have for you. In terms of the other secondary sources, those can be articles that you find online, they can be blog posts, and so on. The key with all of those different source types, though, is to explain and think about why you find them credible. There are a number of ways of doing that. I think many of us understand the idea of looking for a .edu web domain, a .org, that type of thing, but that doesn't mean that all .coms are no good. If you have an academic source that has been peer-reviewed, and then you read your other secondary sources in the context of those peer-reviewed sources, that can help you decide something about the credibility of those other sources. Also, you should look into the author's background. See who is this person, what authority do they have to be writing about this particular topic. Do they have training in this field? If not, what does that say? It doesn't necessarily, again, mean that the source is bad, but you need to be as critical and as thorough as you can as you're thinking about your sources. Just as a reminder to reiterate, for this Sunday, the only thing that you need to do is that bibliography. Of course, the final project itself is due on the 9th, which is Friday by midnight, so it's a week from this Friday. And please remember that the final project is essentially an annotated bibliography. You'll be using the digital site Adobe Spark to enhance your annotated bibliography. What I mean by that is you'll be able to embed images, videos, links, to the sources that you've located for your work, but you don't have to write a research paper. So this isn't just putting a research paper online on Adobe Spark. It's essentially putting an annotated bibliography on Adobe Spark. So please remember that. You'll be listing each of your sources, and in the annotation, you'll need to do three things. First, you'll need to give a brief summary of what the source is about. So not just be as specific as you can and as thorough as you can within a few sentences. The second thing that you need to address is the credibility of your source. And again, you have to explain what was your thought process that you went through in deciding that your source was credible. What investigation did you do to figure that out? And then third, you need to explain in specific terms how the source helped you answer your research question. Even though it's an annotated bibliography, you will write an introduction paragraph and a conclusion paragraph. So you'll have your introduction that will kind of explain what your topic is, maybe why you were interested in it, and it will present your thesis statement. Your thesis statement is your answer to your research questions. So even though you haven't done a complete research paper, you should, by the time you've done your research, read all your sources, have an idea about what the answer to your question is, or at least a possible answer for your question. That's what you'll use as your thesis, and then throughout each annotation, you'll refer back to that thesis to explain, again, how each individual source helps you arrive at that answer, helped you draw those conclusions. And then you'll have a conclusion to tie everything together. There are examples embedded in the final project instructions, so you can look at things that students in past semesters have done. They've tried, following this pattern that I've laid out for what you need to do. As always, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. The video is going a little long, which I tend to do, but I did want to say something about the social media aspect of the assignment. With that part of the assignment, all I'm looking for is for you to go out to social media sites like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and so on to see if people are saying anything about your topic. They may or may not be. If they're not, just say, oh, I didn't include social media sources because no one was saying anything really interesting or important about my topic. You might find some things, though, especially if you're doing something like Billy the Kid or Roswell. People talk about that a lot, those topics a lot on social media in different ways. You may find that everything on social media is less than credible, and say that. Say the conversations people are having around this topic aren't really that helpful for answering an academic research question, but it does let me know that these are things that people are interested in, again, as an example of how you might approach that. I hope that's all helpful. Please let me know what questions you have, and I hope that you have a good rest of the week.